I've replayed that Tuesday afternoon 1,000 times in my head, examining every detail like evidence at a crime scene. Maybe if I'd been paying closer attention, I would have seen the signs sooner. Maybe if I'd questioned Lauren's sudden enthusiasm for business trips, or the way she'd started showering immediately after coming home from work, or how her phone had become surgically attached to her hand. But I didn't question any of it. That was my mistake. Trusting completely when trust should have been earned daily, not assumed indefinitely. It was 3:47 p.m. when the knock came. I remember because I'd been watching the warehouse loading schedule on my laptop, trying to get ahead of tomorrow's shift. Lauren had left that morning for another conference in Denver, kissing me goodbye with the same mechanical affection she'd shown for months. 7 years of marriage, and I thought I knew every expression on her face. Looking back, I realized I'd been living with a stranger for the better part of a year. The woman at my door looked like she belonged in a boardroom, not on my front porch in suburban Indiana. Perfectly styled blonde hair, tailored coat despite the September heat, and designer heels that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. But it was her eyes that stopped me cold. They held a fury so controlled, so precise, that I instinctively knew she was dangerous. The woman spoke with authority. "Ethan Cole?" "Yes," I replied. "I'm Vanessa Hartwell," she announced. "We need to talk about our spouses." The name hit me like a physical blow. Marcus Hartwell, Lauren's district manager. The man she'd mentioned in passing, always professionally, always in the context of meetings and quarterly reports. My brain scrambled to process why his wife was standing on my doorstep, looking like she wanted to burn the world down. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I started to say. Vanessa was already moving past me. "May I come in?" "Trust me, you'll want to sit down for this conversation." I followed her into my living room, watching as she surveyed the space with calculating eyes. Our modest home probably looked pathetic compared to whatever mansion she called home, but her expression wasn't judgmental. It was cataloging, like she was gathering intelligence. "How long have you been married, Ethan?" she asked. 7 years, I replied. "Look, I don't know what you think." She cut me off. "And how long has Lauren been taking these frequent business trips?" The question landed like a punch to the gut. "About 8 months. Her career's been taking off, so the company's been sending her to more conferences and training seminars." Vanessa's smile was razor-sharp. "Training seminars, is that what she calls them?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "I've been having my husband followed for 3 months. Would you like to see what I found?" My hands shook as I opened the envelope. The first photograph showed Lauren and a man I recognized from her company Christmas party, Marcus Hartwell. They were entering a hotel, his hand on the small of her back in a gesture that was unmistakably intimate. The second photo showed them kissing in the hotel bar, Lauren's wedding ring glinting in the light as her fingers tangled in his hair. But it was the third photograph that shattered my world completely. Lauren and Marcus in a hotel room, the curtains open just enough for the camera to capture them in bed together. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 days ago, the same day Lauren had called me from her hotel room to tell me goodnight. Vanessa's voice remained clinical. "There are 47 more photographs. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, text messages my private investigator recovered from Marcus's phone before he learned to delete them. Your wife and my husband have been conducting their affair with remarkable consistency. Every business trip Lauren has taken in the past 8 months has coincided with Marcus's travel schedule." I stared at the photos until my vision blurred. The woman in these pictures looked like Lauren, moved like Lauren, but she couldn't be the same person who'd made me coffee that morning and reminded me to pick up milk on my way home from work. "Why are you showing me this?" My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. Vanessa's phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen before showing it to me. A text message from someone labeled Private Investigator. "Subjects just checked into Renaissance Hotel, room 847, obtaining visual confirmation now." "Because they're together right now," she said, "and because I'm tired of being the only one who knows the truth." She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto mine with predatory focus. "We can fall apart separately, or we can make them pay together." The rage that swept through me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't the hot, explosive anger of a bar fight. It was cold, calculating, and hungry for justice. Lauren thought she was so smart, so careful, so entitled to her secret life. She had no idea that her perfect deception was about to become the instrument of her destruction. "What did you have in mind?" I heard myself ask. Vanessa's smile was absolutely terrifying. Complete and total ruin. Vanessa's black Mercedes felt like a war rune on wheels as we drove through downtown Indianapolis. She'd insisted we leave my house immediately. Too many variables in a familiar environment, she'd said. And I was beginning to understand that this woman approached everything like a military campaign. "Tell me about Marcus," I said as she navigated traffic with the same precision she'd used to destroy my marriage. "Ambitious middle management with expensive tastes and no family money," she replied, her voice carrying the particular disdain of someone who'd been used for their connections. "He married me because my father owns the company where he works. Where your wife works too, as it turns out." The irony was so bitter I almost laughed. "So, he gained access to Lauren through you?" "Indirectly, yes," Vanessa confirmed. "Marcus has been climbing the corporate ladder by leveraging our marriage for 3 years. Board dinners, golf outings with investors, strategic introductions. I've been his unpaid career counselor." She pulled into the parking lot of an upscale coffee shop that looked like the kind of place where million-dollar deals were discussed over artisan lattes. "I started suspecting something was wrong 6 months ago. He became secretive about his phone, started working late more often, and his business trips doubled in frequency." Inside the coffee shop, she spread out a folder that looked like something from a legal thriller. Photographs, credit card statements, hotel receipts, and a detailed timeline that mapped out every lie Lauren had told me in the past 8 months. "You've been thorough," I observed, studying the evidence. "I don't act on emotion alone," she stated. She pointed to a spreadsheet that cross-referenced Marcus's travel schedule with Lauren's. "Every single trip matches. Chicago, Denver, Atlanta, Phoenix. They've been conducting this affair like a business partnership." The documentation was overwhelming. Text messages between them about which hotels to book, elaborate cover stories they'd constructed for their spouses, even discussions about what gifts to buy us to maintain appearances. Reading Lauren's words to another man felt like watching someone else's wife live my life. "What's your endgame?" I asked. Vanessa's expression turned predatory. "I want them to lose everything they've used our marriages to gain. Marcus built his career on my family's connections. I can destroy those overnight. Lauren's been using her affair with my husband to advance in the company. I can end that too. And personally," I pressed, "I want them to feel as powerless and humiliated as they made us feel." She leaned back in her chair, and for the first time, I saw the raw hurt beneath her controlled exterior. "Marcus used me, Ethan. He used my love, my trust, my family's reputation. All so he could play corporate games and screw your wife in expensive hotels." I thought about Lauren that morning, kissing me goodbye while her phone buzzed with messages from Marcus. The practiced affection, the careful lies, the way she'd trained herself to look me in the eye while planning her next betrayal. "What are you thinking?" Vanessa asked. "I'm thinking about how easily she lied to me. How natural it seemed," I replied. "I'm thinking about how she must have laughed about it with him. The stupid husband at home, working his warehouse job, never suspecting a thing. WHY. Think we're fools," she said simply. "We're going to prove them wrong." We spent the next 2 hours planning their destruction with the same methodical attention they'd given to hiding their affair. Vanessa had already consulted with 3 different divorce attorneys, choosing the most aggressive ones she could find. She'd begun the process of documenting Marcus's misuse of company resources and had compiled evidence of his professional misconduct. "The beauty of corporate revenge," she explained, "is that adultery might be morally wrong, but misusing company assets for personal affairs is legally actionable. Marcus has been charging his hotel rooms to his corporate account, using company cars for personal trips, and scheduling fake meetings to justify his travel. My father's company has a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of behavior. I found myself admitting capabilities I'd never known I possessed. I work logistics. I understand supply chains, timing, coordination. If we're going to do this, we need to hit them simultaneously so neither can warn the other." "Exactly." she agreed. She pulled out her phone and showed me Marcus's calendar, which she'd gained access to through their shared cloud account. They're coming back from Denver on Thursday afternoon. Separate flights, of course, but arriving within 2 hours of each other. We coordinate the divorce papers for the same day, I suggested. The same hour, she confirmed. Her smile was absolutely vicious. I want them to realize that their secret is out at exactly the same moment, so they can't comfort each other or plan a defense. As we finalized our timeline, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and constant, but it was being transformed into something more useful. Cold, strategic fury. Lauren had made me feel powerless for months, lying to my face while building a life with another man. She thought she was so much smarter than me, so much more sophisticated. She was about to learn how wrong she was. "Whole more thing," Vanessa said as we prepared to leave. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Are you absolutely certain you want to destroy your marriage?" I thought about the photographs in her envelope, about Lauren's lies, about the 8 months of deception that had made me question my own sanity. "She already destroyed it," I said. "I'm just making sure she doesn't profit from the wreckage." The next 48 hours were the longest of my life. Maintaining normalcy with Lauren while secretly orchestrating her downfall required acting skills I didn't know I possessed. When she called Wednesday night from her Denver hotel room, the same room where she was probably naked in bed with Marcus, I managed to sound like the loving, trusting husband she expected. "How's the conference going?" I asked, my voice steady despite the rage boiling in my chest. "Boring as usual, but productive," Lauren replied. The keynote speaker was actually interesting for once. Her lies came so easily, so naturally that I wondered how many others I'd missed over the years. "I miss you, baby." The endearment that once made me smile now felt like acid in my ears. "Miss you too. Can't wait to have you home." "Tomorrow evening," she said. "My flight lands at 6:30. "I'll pick you up," I offered. "No need, I've got a ride arranged," she responded. Of course she did. Marcus would be on an earlier flight, probably already planning their reunion while maintaining the fiction of their separate business trips. After hanging up, I sat in our bedroom and cataloged all the evidence of her deception that I'd been too trusting to notice. A new perfume on the bathroom counter that she claimed was a free sample, hotel shampoo bottles in her suitcase that didn't match the brands she usually preferred, lingerie I'd never seen her wear, still in the shopping bags with tags attached. It's because... Meanwhile, Vanessa was executing her part of our plan with surgical precision. She'd arranged for Marcus's corporate credit card statements to be audited, initiated the process to freeze their joint accounts, and scheduled the divorce papers to be served at exactly 7 p.m. Thursday 1-hour, an hour after Lauren's flight landed. "The process server will be disguised as a rideshare driver," she explained during our Wednesday morning coffee meeting. "Marcus always takes an Uber from the airport when he's returning from business trips. He won't suspect anything until it's too late." I'd found my own divorce attorney, a woman named Patricia Kowalski who specialized in cases involving infidelity and had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in asset protection. She'd been fascinated by the evidence Vanessa and I had compiled. "In 30 years of practice, I've never seen documentation this thorough," she'd said, reviewing the photographs and financial records. "Your wife's affair is going to make the divorce proceedings very straightforward. Indiana is a no-fault state, but adultery still impacts asset division, especially when there's evidence of deception and financial misconduct." Thursday morning arrived, gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. I called in sick to work, the first time I'd used a personal day in over 2 years, and spent the day making final preparations. I photographed everything of value in our house, documented our joint accounts, and packed Lauren's belongings into boxes that I stacked neatly in the garage. Vanessa texted me regular updates throughout the day. Marcus's corporate access had been quietly suspended pending the audit. His company phone had been remotely deactivated. The private investigator was positioned at the Denver airport to document their farewell just in case we needed additional evidence. At 4:30 p.m., I received the text I'd been waiting for. Eagle has landed. Phase 2 initiated. Marcus's flight had arrived on schedule. In exactly 2.5 hours, he would be served with divorce papers and evidence of his misconduct while entering what he thought was his rideshare vehicle, 30 minutes later, Lauren would receive her own packet of documents, delivered by a different process server who would be waiting in our driveway. I stood in our kitchen, looking around at the life we'd built together. 7 years of marriage, thousands of shared meals, countless conversations about our future, all of it poisoned by her lies, all of it revealed as performance art designed to give her cover for her real relationship. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. Flight delayed 30 minutes, will be late getting home. Even now, even today, she couldn't stop lying. According to the flight tracker Vanessa had shown me, Lauren's flight had actually landed on time. She was probably with Marcus right now, making plans for their next secret meeting, while her husband waited at home like a fool. But not for much longer. At 6:45 p.m., Vanessa called. Marcus just got in his rideshare. The driver handed him the envelope 30 seconds ago. I can hear him screaming from here. Lauren's pulling into our driveway now, I reported, watching her rental car through the living room window. She looks happy. She won't be for long, Vanessa predicted. The process server should be there any minute. I watched Lauren get out of her car, checking her phone and smiling at something on the screen. Probably a message from Marcus, completely unaware that his world had just exploded. She looked confident, relaxed, completely secure in her deception. She had no idea that everything was about to change forever. The process server's car pulled up just as Lauren reached our front door. Perfect timing. She wouldn't be able to retreat into the house and try to call Marcus for support. She'd have to face this moment completely alone, just as she'd left me alone in our marriage while she built a life with another man. I opened the front door just as the process server approached with his clipboard and envelope. The process server spoke clearly. Lauren Cole? Yes. Lauren's voice was uncertain now, her confidence beginning to crack. You've been served, the man announced. I watched the color drain from her face as she opened the envelope and saw the divorce papers, the photographs, and the detailed evidence of her 8-month affair. Her hands started shaking, and she looked up at me with an expression of pure panic. Ethan, I can explain, she began. No, I said calmly. You really can't. Lauren's face cycled through expressions like she was trying on masks. Shock, denial, anger, desperation. She clutched the envelope containing the evidence of her affair, her hands trembling so violently that the papers rustled. This isn't what it looks like, she insisted, her voice high and strained. You don't understand the context. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. I stepped aside as the process server departed, leaving us alone on our front porch for what would be the last time as husband and wife. I understand that you've been Marcus Hartwell for 8 months. I understand that every business trip was a lie. I understand that you've been playing house with him while I played the fool at home. She flinched at my language, as if the crude words were more shocking than the reality of her betrayal. Ethan, please, let me explain. It's complicated. Is it? I challenged. Because it seems pretty simple to me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the timeline Vanessa had created. Denver in January. That's when it started, isn't it? You told me it was a quarterly review meeting. Chicago in February, where you said you were attending a sales conference. Atlanta in March for leadership training. With each location, her face grew paler. She'd underestimated how thoroughly her deception had been documented, how completely her lies had been exposed. How did you... She stopped herself, realizing the question would only confirm her guilt. Vanessa Hartwell is remarkably thorough when she wants to be, I explained. Did you really think Marcus's wife wouldn't notice that his business trips coincided perfectly with yours? Did you think his corporate expense account wouldn't eventually be audited? The mention of Vanessa seemed to physically stagger her. She knows? She's known for months, I confirmed. While you and Marcus were planning your next romantic getaway, she was building a case against both of you. I felt a cold satisfaction, watching Lauren's carefully constructed world crumble in real time. He's been served too, by the way, about 20 minutes ago. His wife, his job, his reputation, all gone. Lauren's phone started buzzing frantically. Marcus, no doubt, trying to reach her in his panic. She looked at the screen, then at me, her face a mask of pure desperation. Don't answer it, I commanded. You two are done using each other for comfort. Ethan, I made a mistake, she pleaded. A terrible mistake, but it doesn't have to end our marriage. We can work through this." "Work through what?" I shot back. 8 months of calculated betrayal? 8 months of you looking me in the eye and lying about where you were, who you were with, what you were doing? The rage I'd been keeping controlled finally started to leak through. "You didn't make a mistake, Lauren. You made a choice. Every hotel room, every text message, every time you came home and pretended to be my loving wife while his cum was still inside you, those were all choices." She recoiled as if I'd slapped her. "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest," I corrected. "Something you apparently forgot how to do." I gestured toward the divorce papers. "Patricia Kowalski is the best divorce attorney in the state. She specializes in cases involving adultery. You should probably get your own lawyer." "I don't want a divorce." The words came out as a wail, desperate and raw. "I want to save our marriage." "Our marriage died the first time you f***ed him," I stated. "Everything since then has just been you playing with the corpse." I turned toward the house, then stopped. "Oh, and Lauren? Your things are packed and in the garage. You have until tomorrow evening to arrange for them to be picked up." I was almost inside when she grabbed my arm. "Please, Ethan. I love you. I've always loved you. Marcus was just... he was just a distraction, a moment of weakness that got out of hand." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then into her eyes. The same eyes that had lied to me every day for 8 months. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have needed a distraction." Inside the house, I poured myself a whiskey and sat in the chair where I'd opened Vanessa's envelope just 3 days ago. Through the window, I could see Lauren, still standing on the porch, crying into her phone. Probably trying to reach Marcus, but he had his own crisis to manage now. My phone rang. It was Vanessa. "How did she take it?" she asked. "About as well as expected," I replied. "Lots of tears, lots of denials, lots of promises that it didn't mean anything." I took a sip of whiskey, savoring the burn. "How's Marcus handling his new reality?" "Like a man who's just realized he lost everything for an affair," she answered with grim satisfaction. "He called me 17 times before I finally answered. Apparently he thought he could talk his way out of this, like he talks his way out of everything else." "And?" I prompted. "I hung up on him," she said. "His lawyer can call my lawyer if he wants to negotiate the terms of his surrender." She paused. "My father fired him this afternoon, effective immediately. Security escorted him from the building." I felt a surge of vicious satisfaction. Marcus had used his marriage to Vanessa to build his career, then betrayed both women for momentary pleasure. Now he had nothing. No wife, no job, no reputation, no future in their industry. "What about Lauren's position?" I asked. "Terminated for violation of the company's ethics policy," Vanessa reported. "Apparently, having an affair with a married supervisor while falsifying expense reports constitutes grounds for immediate dismissal." Her laugh was sharp and cold. "They won't be able to use each other as references." Outside, Lauren had finally gotten off the phone and was walking toward her car. She moved like someone in shock, her confident stride replaced by an uncertain shuffle. The woman who'd kissed me goodbye that morning while texting her lover was gone, replaced by someone who'd just learned that actions have consequences. "Any regrets?" Vanessa asked. I thought about the question seriously. 7 years of marriage, destroyed in 3 days of planning. 7 years of shared history, reduced to evidence in a divorce filing. 7 years of trust, revealed as willful blindness. "None," I said finally. "They made their choices. We just made sure they had to live with the consequences." After Lauren drove away, I walked through our house one final time as a married man. Tomorrow, she'd be back to collect her things, probably with a moving truck and whatever friends she could convince to help her. But tonight, for the first time in 8 months, I was alone in a house that belonged entirely to me. It felt like freedom. The immediate aftermath was exactly as brutal as we'd planned. Lauren spent the weekend frantically calling lawyers, trying to find someone willing to take her case despite the overwhelming evidence against her. She left 17 voicemails on my phone, each one more desperate than the last, cycling through every strategy from tearful apologies to angry accusations to threats of legal action. I deleted them all without listening to more than a few seconds of each. Marcus, according to Vanessa's updates, had fared even worse. Without a job or any real skills beyond corporate networking, he'd been forced to move in with his brother while scrambling for employment. The problem was that Vanessa's family connections ran deep in their industry, deep enough to ensure that Marcus's name was quietly blacklisted from any position that might offer him a fresh start. Members applied to 17 companies last week, Vanessa told me during our final coffee meeting. My father made 17 phone calls. Corporate Indianapolis is smaller than people think. Lauren had managed to find a lawyer, a recent graduate desperate enough for clients to take a case with no chance of success. The woman had apparently suggested that Lauren could claim emotional distress, temporary insanity, or some other mitigating factor that might reduce the financial consequences of her adultery. She's going to argue that the affair was a symptom of problems in your marriage, Patricia Kowalski had explained with barely concealed amusement. That you were emotionally distant, that the stress of her career created vulnerabilities that Marcus exploited. Will that work? I asked. Not with this evidence, Patricia assured me, and certainly not when the judge sees that she was using joint credit cards to pay for hotel rooms where she committed adultery. Her smile was razor sharp. Your wife chose the wrong state to have an affair in, and she definitely chose the wrong husband to betray. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Lauren's lawyer tried every desperate strategy she could think of, but the evidence was too comprehensive, too well documented, too professionally presented to challenge. 8 months of meticulous deception revealed through bank statements, credit card records, hotel receipts, photographs, and text messages recovered by a private investigator. The final settlement gave me the house, the majority of our joint savings, and her entire $401K as compensation for her misconduct. Lauren walked away with her car, her clothes, and enough money to start over, somewhere else, since her reputation in Indianapolis was completely destroyed. Marcus lost even more. Vanessa's family lawyers had pursued him for misuse of corporate resources, breach of fiduciary duty, and violation of his employment contract. By the time they finished with him, he owed more in legal fees and damages than he could pay with everything he owned. Their affair, which had probably felt like a romantic adventure when they were stealing moments in expensive hotels, had cost them everything they'd worked to build. Lauren lost her career, her marriage, her home, and her future in the city where she'd grown up. Marcus lost his wife, his job, his reputation, and any chance of rebuilding his professional life. The last time I saw Lauren was when she came to collect her belongings. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of consequences she'd never imagined facing. She moved through our former home like a ghost, packing boxes with mechanical efficiency while avoiding eye contact. The new place is nice, she said as she carried a box toward the door. Small, but nice. I nodded politely but didn't ask for details. Her new life wasn't my concern anymore. Ethan, She stopped herself, perhaps finally understanding that apologies were pointless. The time for explanations and pleas had passed the moment she chose Marcus over our marriage. Take care of yourself, Lauren, I said simply. She left without another word, and I watched her car disappear around the corner for the last time. 7 years of marriage, reduced to a few hours of packing boxes and awkward silence. Vanessa and I met one final time to close the chapter on our unlikely partnership. She looked different, lighter somehow, as if revenge had lifted a weight she'd been carrying for months. Any word from Marcus? I asked. His lawyer sent mine a letter asking if we could discuss terms for a reduced settlement, she replied with amusement. I sent back a copy of the prenuptial agreement he signed. He gets nothing. And personally, I inquired. I feel free, she said. For the first time in years, I don't have to wonder if I'm being lied to, used, or manipulated. I know exactly where I stand. She raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. To the price of justice. And the value of consequences, I replied, meeting her gesture. We parted ways with mutual respect, but no ongoing friendship. We'd been allies born of necessity, bonded by betrayal, and united in purpose. With that purpose fulfilled, we no longer needed each other's strength or validation. 6 months later, I ran into someone from Lauren's old department at the grocery store. She mentioned, almost in passing, that Lauren had moved to Phoenix and was working as a sales associate at a car dealership, a significant step down from her former corporate position. "Heard she's struggling a bit," the woman said with the careful tone people use when discussing someone else's downfall. "Hard to start over at 32. I nodded sympathetically but felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, no curiosity about her new life. Lauren had become a stranger to me the moment I saw those photographs, and her current struggles were simply the natural consequences of choices she'd made as an adult. Marcus, according to the occasional updates I still received from Vanessa, had left Indianapolis entirely. His brother had grown tired of supporting him, and without any professional references or industry connections, he'd been forced to take a job in retail. The man who'd once managed multi-million-dollar accounts was now selling electronics at a big-box store in Columbus, Ohio. They'd traded 8 months of stolen pleasure for the destruction of everything they'd built over decades. The math seemed fair to me. The house feels different now. Quieter, but in a good way. It's truly mine for the first time since Lauren and I bought it together, free from the tension and deception that had poisoned our home for the final months of our marriage. I've made small changes. New furniture in the living room, a different paint color in the bedroom, a different paint color in the bedroom, a home office where Lauren's vanity used to be. The changes aren't about erasing memories. They're about creating a space that belongs entirely to the man I've become, not the man I was when I trusted too easily and questioned too little. Work has been a refuge. The guys at the warehouse know something happened with my marriage, but they respect my privacy enough not to pry. I've been putting in extra hours, saving money, and considering a move to a different city. Indianapolis holds too many ghosts now, too many reminders of the life I thought I was living. I still think about Lauren sometimes, but the thoughts are clinical rather than emotional. I wonder if she's learned anything from the experience, if she's capable of honesty in her new relationships, if she ever truly understood the scope of what she destroyed. But these thoughts pass quickly, like wondering about the weather in a city I'll never visit. Last week, I was at the hardware store when I saw her. Lauren was 2 aisles over, looking at paint samples, with the focused intensity of someone trying to make a fresh start. She looked older, more tired, and there was a fragility to her movements that hadn't been there during our marriage. For a moment, our eyes met across the store. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then seemed to think better of it. I nodded politely, the acknowledgement due to any stranger, and continued shopping. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no curiosity about her new life or whether she was happy. She was simply another person in a hardware store. Someone whose problems were no longer my concern. Walking past her toward the checkout, I realized that indifference was the ultimate victory. She no longer had the power to hurt me, anger me, or even interest me. The woman who'd once been the center of my world had become a footnote in the story of my life, a chapter I'd closed completely and moved beyond. Outside in the parking lot, I started my truck and drove away without looking back. The man who'd once waited at home while his wife lied to his face was gone, replaced by someone who understood the value of self-respect and the price of betrayal. Lauren had taught me an expensive lesson about trust, but it was a lesson worth learning. I would never again accept deception as love, or mistake loyalty for weakness. For the first time in over a year, I was exactly where I wanted to be, free, honest, and completely my own man. The future stretched ahead of me, clean and uncompromised, waiting to be built by someone who finally understood his own worth. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.